Heyo adventurers, my name is Derek and this is Elven Tower Adventures. Back here you can see my two cats in the background in the prime spot. With this video I continue my game design vlogs for TTRPG games, and today I will be speaking about dice resolution systems. While researching for this video, I was visiting sites like Reddit and other forums where people speak about game design, and I found that there are two different teams when it comes to dice resolution. On one side, you have people that think that choosing a dice resolution system is a very important choice when you make a game. They claim that different dice mechanics have a different feel in how you use them, the kind of numbers that they give you as a result, whether they have a bell curve or not as a result, and that changes the feel of the game. On the other hand, you have people that concede that the dice mechanic is important, but not that important, and that other things like procedures or other rules, or whether you have classes or not, or which classes and what spells, and all the other side of the game design, they believe that's more important than whatever dice mechanic you choose. I even saw some people claim that you could pretty much use any dice resolution mechanic for any game. If the accompanying rules supported that kind of game, it would work. And these were blog posts and Reddit threads that went back almost 20 years. So what have I learned? There is no consensus. Like in everything art related, there is no consensus. People have a lot of ideas. So what do I think? Personally, I am with the first group. I think that choosing the right dice resolution system for your game is a crucial part of making the game. I would go as far as to claim two things. One, depending on the game you're trying to make, choosing wrong here could cripple your game. And two, maybe those who don't think this is that important have not actually played many different kinds of games. Could be wrong about that. Sue me. See you in the comments. So now, what do I want to do with my game? My game is going to be a fantasy heartbreaker, dungeon crawling, wilderness exploring game. You know, you could say Dungeons and Dragons, D&D, because that's what I like and what a lot of people like. A D&D-like game. But people often do not like the iteration that we currently have of D&D, that is 5th edition, because of some changes of how the rules work. That's my case. And so we look for alternatives. Or we homebrew our own version, which is kind of what I'm doing, but I want to make it a product because I'm in the scene. I produce stuff for TTRPG games, mainly Dungeons and Dragons. So on the subject of dice mechanics, what do I not like about D&D dice resolution? Well, we know what it is. It's a d20 plus a modifier and you compare it with a target number. We all know it, it's familiar, and that's why it's so popular, because it's so easy to pick up, it's familiar, and it is easy to use. Depending on the edition and the level of the party, it may involve a lot of math. So let's say you roll a d20, you get a 14, but the character has a +7 modifier, you have to do that addition plus 14 plus 7 gives you a 21, but maybe you have a +2 bonus from something else. And I know that adding numbers is not difficult, but a lot of people do not like that. I have no problem with it. But I have seen some people that stumble at the table when they have to do math like I have just described. I think it's a matter of taste. But because I have seen that in the games I have run, I don't like it that much. There is something else that I personally do not like, and that is the swinginess of the D20. You have 20 sides, you don't know which you're gonna get, and that's fine. It's a randomizer. But there is a 5% chance that you will get any of the numbers on the die. From 1 to 20, 5% each divided evenly. That's fine if you like that. For a time, that was something I liked a lot. But as I got to try more games, I changed my mind. The thing is, if instead of rolling a d20 you were to roll, let's say, a d12, it would be the same. It's just 12 numbers. With a d12, there's still a 12th of a chance that you will get each of the numbers. It's the same as a d20, but with less options. What radically changes this is when you get 2 dice rolling. For example, in Powered by the Apocalypse games like Dungeon World, usually you roll 2d6 plus a modifier. When you roll 2d6, things change. Let me show you. This is the Any Dice website, and here are the odds of rolling any given number when you roll 2d6. As you can see, you get a graph that looks like a bell, hence its name. It's a bell curve graph. On the first column, we have the number you want to roll, for example, 2, 3, 4, up to 12. You cannot roll a 1 with 2d6 because you can only get a 1 and a 1 in each die, and that adds to 2. And on the second column, you get the percentage of probabilities, the odds of rolling that number. So for rolling a 2, there is a 2.78% of probabilities of rolling that. But if you want to roll a 3, it changes. There's a 5.56% chance of rolling that, then 8.33 for a 4, and it keeps going up until you go to the 7. 7 is the more likely number you will roll when you roll 2d6. There's 16.67% chances of rolling that. As you go over 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, again the odds descend to the same number of the 2. The probabilities of rolling a 12 are 2.78%. For me, this changes everything. Now, you can set a target number. In this case, if there were no modifiers, you could set a target number of 8, for example. And let me change this graph like this. So if you wanted to roll an 8, there is at least a probability of 41.67% of rolling it. But as you go over, still the odds change. The immediate consequence of using a system like this is that you get less swinginess as you would get with a d20 or a percentile die mechanic. Depending on the target number or the range of target numbers that you use for your game, you can get a more consistent result, depending on whether you want the characters to succeed more often or not. However, personally, I do not like the 2d6 system I just described. Just having 2 dice in my hand, I mean, it's fine, but for me it's not enough. I like to hold a lot of dice. Something similar to this would be like the dice resolution mechanic they have in Daggerheart. In that game, you roll 2 d12s. They also separate each die so that depending on which one is higher than the other, you get 4 different possibilities of results. That's pretty fun. I think it's a very clever way of resolution with dice, but I want more. So what do I have in mind? I really liked how they did it in games like Mouse Guard, Torchbearer, and Burning Wheel, where you roll d6s. And once you roll them, every die that rolls from 1 to 3 it doesn't count, it's a failure. But dice that get results of 4 to 6, they count as successes. And then you just count the successes. So for example, let's say you roll 4 d6s. So you roll them. 2 of them get a 1 and a 3, you discard them. And the other 2 roll a 5 and a 6. That's 2 successes. That's like rolling a 2 as your result. And then you would compare it with the target number. Why do I like that? First, you roll a lot of dice. Second, you don't have to do math. I mean, not a lot of it. You just see which dice are successes and you add them. But this is very easy to do because it's just like 1 plus 1 plus 1. That's easy. Anyone can do it. No one will complain. Third, it creates a very interesting bell curve, which I will show you in the AnyDice website in a moment. 4, depending on how I do the skills, I might do them similarly to how they do it in Mouse Guard. You could get like a higher skill rank, hence allowing you to roll a lot of dice, but it would never be that much. Like a high roll would be like 6 to 10 die, you know, like a D&D fireball. But in the fireball, you have to add all the numbers. Here, you would just have to add the successes, and the others you would discard them. So with this dice resolution system, if you only are going to roll 1 die, like just 1d6, 1 to 3 you fail, 4 to 6 you succeed. It's like a coin flip. It's like a 50-50 chance, and that's easy to calculate. But as soon as you have a higher rank on your skill or your stat, let's say 2, you have to roll 2 dice. And now you get a very small bell curve. But when you roll more dice, 3, 4, 5, 6, the bell curve becomes larger, but the range of results is small. Let me show you an example. Here I have the AnyDice website, so it calculates the odds of rolling 3d6. It counts any result that's 4 or higher as a success. Because we only have 3 dice, there are only 4 possibilities in the end. Either you get no successes or you get 1, 2, or 3 successes. That's it. And here is the graphic. The odds of rolling 0 or 3 successes are 12.5%. It's actually pretty low. But the odds of rolling either 1 or 2 successes are 37.5%. It's a lot more likely. But this changes if we add another die. So for example, if I add a 4th die, now we have an extra result and the bell curve expands. Here, because we have 4 dice, the odds of rolling a 0 or a 4 are 6.25%. It's very unlikely. The odds of rolling a 1 or a 3 are 25%, and the more likely result is 2 successes with a 37.5%. Just as an example, I will now calculate the odds for a pool of 6 dice. So obviously the bell curve expands with the new possible results. When you roll 6d6, the odds of you rolling every dice with 3 or less as a result is very low. In this case, it shows us that it's 1.56%. It's pretty much impossible, but it may happen. And I have seen it happen in games. Also, rolling every die with a 4 or higher is very unlikely. It's the same odds, 1.56%. In this case, the more likely result is 3 successes with 31.25% of probabilities. Personally, I like this a lot because when I compare it with a game like D&D, in D&D, it doesn't matter how proficient my character is when they attempt something. We always roll a d20 and then we add a number. And how proficient my character is reflected in that extra number, like a d20 plus 10 or a d20 plus 5, and that's fine. It's how it works. But mechanically, it's always the same. You just throw the d20 and then just add the number. But with a system like this, someone who is not very proficient with a sword, for example, they would be rolling 2 dice. But when the real fighter gets their turn, because they are experts with the sword, they get to roll 4, maybe 5 dice. And here is something that cannot be reflected by the rules, but can only be felt when you do it. When you actually get to grab a bunch of dice and throw them on the table and know that only you get access to do that because you are the best with the sword or with the spell or tracking monsters or whatever you are expert at, I think it feels really nice. This is something people may disagree with. I really like it, and I have seen players at the table like it a lot. When they get to do their thing where they are the expert and they get to grab a bunch of dice and throw them, but then after throwing them, it's not like the Wizard's Fireball where we have to get all the dice and make an addition of all the numbers. We just discard results under 4 and get the others, and we just add the successes. Very easy to do, and you get your number. So that's what I'm doing. I see also another thing that I like a lot about this, because the bell curve prevents the number of successes going too high. The target numbers for the game can also not be that high. That also makes the game apparently simpler. To give an example, let's say someone is trying to find something that's hidden in a room. And this is not like a high-level adventure or anything. It's just normal dungeon crawling for low to mid proficiency within the party. The target number, the difficulty class, however you want to call it, is probably going to be a 2 or a 3. Not a lot more than that. And then the character rolling to find this hidden thing is probably going to roll 3 or 4 dice, maybe 5 if they get help or they spend some meta currency to increase the number of dice, because they're just needing to get a 2 or a 3. It's not that high of a number. It couldn't be that high. It prevents the numbers inflation that you often see in games like D&D or Pathfinder, where you see monsters that when you were lower level, they had an armor class of, let's say, 12, but then 10 levels later you encounter monsters that have armor class of 25 or something like that. And it has to be like that, because when you roll a d20, as you level up, you keep increasing the modifier. It's like inflation, but for TTRPGs. And yes, here in my system, there would also be an inflation of numbers as characters level up. It's not the same as saying that my fighter, when they were level 1, they got a, let's say, a +3 modifier, but at level 20 now they have a +15 or +20, and they also have 5 attacks and an action search for an extra attack. It's crazy. Here you would only go from 1 to probably 6, and that would be the whole range of advancement for skills, for example, or stats. Maybe you don't like it, it's fine. And a lot of people do like rolling a d20 and adding large numbers to it. Like I said, I have no problem with the math involved in this, but I have seen a lot of people stumble with that. And I don't think it's an impossibility to do math. I think it's more of a case that they are involved with the game, but when they now have to do math, they have to like turn the channel to the math channel, and for some people it just doesn't click like that. I think it distracts some folks from whatever's going on in the game. I'm going off a tangent here with the math, because I don't have a problem with it, but I have seen people struggle with it. With a system like what I suggest, which is in a way similar to what they use in Blades in the Dark, which also doesn't have math. In Blades in the Dark, you roll also a pool of d6s and then you just keep the highest one. That's super easy to do, and I think that's part of the success of that game. Here you would roll a bunch of dice, but not that many, between let's say 3 and maybe 8, like at the highest level of proficiency, and then just count the successes. 1, 2, 3, that's what you get. Boom. All right, I think this video got a little longer than I expected. I thought it was going to be a very fast one to do. If you have gotten this far, thank you. I appreciate your viewership. If you have ideas about dice resolution, I would love to hear them, especially what you think about how it works in games like D&D or Pathfinder, or whatever is your favorite game that you really like how dice mechanics are resolved. Alright, I guess that's it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Derek, and this is Elven Tower Adventures.